Hello everyone, it's Jasmine, your brow expert. Thank you so much for allowing me to be your brow expert. And thank you so much for coming into the salon. Some of you guys have trusted me with your eyebrows, gotten your brows shaped, and got some tips along the way. Okay, I know I look a little scary right now. I think I scared my husband earlier. See how important brows are? Now, the model that I'm going to show you guys today has very thin eyebrows. One side definitely different than the other. As you can see, this one has a higher peak arch. This one's a tiny bit softer. This is my poor attempt in trying to cover up my fuller brows, which I have tattooed, gosh, a long time ago, which I'll get into another video. But so I have a lot of concealer on. On the model, you're going to see powder, pencil, some concealer along the way. On myself, I'm going to just use powder mostly because I do have that concealer. I don't want to disturb it. So, and my brows are going to be very crazy dark. So keep that in mind. I just want you guys to also see me demonstrate just how I'm holding the products as well. So without further ado, let's get into this model. So as I've said, this model has short eyebrows, very thin, very different too. There's a few areas. I mean, the brows are too far apart. The arches are slightly different. And the ends, well, she doesn't have, if not any ends really. But I will show you that one side of the eyebrow is, well, this side of the eyebrow that I'm pointing out is a tiny bit smaller in length as opposed to the other side where it's a little bit longer and a tiny bit fuller. So I'm just going to give you those little 3 marks. Very important. If you guys haven't already known that I talk about the marks, the 3 areas where you want to measure first, whether you have little or a lot of hair, this is just a really good idea to do because it just helps cut the time in half. You can always erase the marks later, or you might just incorporate right into your brow regime. Okay, so as I'm showing you right here, it's the pinch of the nose right over here, pinch of the nose, corner of the iris, that's your arch, right over here. As you can tell, I've done this measurement on myself so many times. I know exactly where the measurement is. The side of the nose and the side of the corner of the eyes. Right here, that is where the brow should end. So those are the 3 marks. Again, if you guys know anyone that could use this tip, please pass along this video. And again, just make these marks, and the more you do it, it's just going to become like second nature to you. So these are just going to be the easy guidelines, and you can see from one of the marks right over here on the model more than me is that the brows are really far out. So, but we're going to, after I shape the eyebrows, I just shape a little bit, wax a lot of the fuzz off of her eyelid, and just tuck off a tiny bit of hair. She doesn't need much taken off, obviously. So we're going to remark her eyebrows again, but just very lightly this time. By the way, I'm using all of Anastasia Beverly Hills products. On the top, I am listing some of the colors, so you can definitely screenshot this or just write it down. Take your notes. There you go. Okay, so right over here. Now, I'm making these marks a little bit more conservative on her. I'm going to keep mine, but you're going to notice something very obvious. Right over here as I'm filling the eyebrows. Again, I'm using just pencil on her, but you notice that I'm going up here. Now, I'm making all the 3 marks again, but you know what, little dots actually help as well. That's how you can incorporate that in your brow regime right here. So look at this. This is so important right up here. You notice right over there, I just raised it up. And on myself, it already looks good just raising that front up because hers was like a little slope. It was like a little ski slope right up in the front. You can tell on the other side how much of a ski slope it is. So by raising some color up here, it really just helps that much. Even on myself, can you tell already? Okay, so, and I just traced a tiny bit of color on the top. You always want to do a tiny bit, even though this side of her eyebrow is naturally much higher. You still want to apply a little bit of color, but underneath is really the most important area because remember, this side is naturally much higher than the other side. And I'm just doing a tiny bit in the ends, not much. Even though she doesn't have much at all, I want to put a little bit, but not a lot. You don't want to ever drag the tail down to where it's too long. Okay, so on the other side, same deal. You notice again the front, that ski slope. You just want to apply some color right over here, up in the top. And you want to go a tiny bit higher here because remember, this side is naturally a tiny bit lower than the other side. So it's about up here and a tiny bit here, but I'm also applying some color down below as well because remember, she doesn't have much. So just a little bit, following the natural curve. You don't have to go crazy. You're just going right underneath what you already have. And just a tiny bit right here. Look at that. So it makes a huge improvement already. I'm using the taupe pencil. Just blends in really nicely with her hair. She could actually go a little darker if she wanted to as well. So, and I don't know if you guys caught my last video or a few videos before. I talked about all the different colors that we do sell and what color is right for you. So check that video out. I know that one of it can be helping match your color. Okay, so just a little bit. You guys notice how I didn't struggle that much with my eyebrows? A tiny bit goes a long way. I lowered it here and I raised it just a tiny bit here. Underneath there is, again, that high area, right? So you lower that area just a tiny bit. Now, you're still going to see a little bit of difference, but the idea is to make it as close as possible. So you're not going to get it perfect because our facial structure is not that even. Okay, so here's a concealer, the Magic Touch Concealer. I do typically use a highlighter, but I like the concealer sometimes. If your skin's a little bit on the dry side, which hers is, this will add a lot of moisture really to her skin, and a tiny bit goes a long way, you guys, a long way. As you can see, even on her, I just use a tiny bit right here, and there you go. I just dabbed it a tiny bit, and right over here, I'm just going right underneath. Now on myself, it's gonna look really crazy here, right? On myself, it's a little bit more than I would like to. Just the contrast is a little, but I just want to do this so you guys get the idea. And you know what, it just gives a nice clean highlight, don't you think? And under and above is very important too, because it really just kind of gives that polished look. So don't forget to do the top. Okay, I always tell people, you know, most of us forget the top, and if you do a little bit there, it just makes a big difference. And this brush, you guys, is everything, brush 18, because I've referred to this as the eraser. So just a little bit of that. Now you can see the clear brow gel. Now you see me using this all the time because, especially if you have even a little bit of hair, this adds product, you guys, adds fiber. It makes the hair look a little thicker, but most importantly, it keeps the hair up and looking a little combed, more polished looking. I like to go back and forth. Once you put the brow gel up, the hair kicks up. You might see a little gaps here and there. Go back with the pencil and just go in and, you know, just scratch some color in there and make those little adjustments. Just because you put the brow gel doesn't mean that you can't go back, okay? So definitely look at yourself in the mirror. Oh, now here's a before and after. I want you to pay close attention to that, the higher side and how much lower that is compared to the before one. And that ski slope, most important thing is remember the ski slope is a little higher now and underneath is filled in. Those are the two important areas I want you guys to keep in mind. So yeah, great before and after, right? So thank you so much for just sticking with me through the video. I hope you've learned some tips. Again, pass this along to anyone that you know can use this tip on making the brows look fuller and slightly more even. And definitely give me a comment. This helps me to know how I'm doing and what better content I can bring out for you guys. And definitely subscribe. And thank you so much. And I will see you guys right back here.